Kuzampo. My name is Tenzing Lamsam. I'm the editor of the Bhutanese Newspaper. And today I would like to talk about how Bhutan is saving Nultram 2 to 3 billion a year in fuel import bills, in part due to a series of investigative stories by the Bhutanese Newspaper from April 2022 going all the way to March 2023. So getting into it, as of today, which is 7th February 2024, the price of petrol in Thimphu is Nultram 66.82 chetams per litre, and the price of diesel again in Thimphu is Nultram 70.63 chetams per litre. At the same time, the fuel price in Delhi, New Delhi, India, as of 7th February 2024 is rupees 96.72 paise per litre for petrol, and it is rupees 89.62 paise per litre for diesel. So you can see here that the price of petrol is cheaper in Bhutan by around Nultram 30 per litre compared to New Delhi, India, and it is also again cheaper by Nultram 19 per litre for diesel when you compare Thimphu and when you compare New Delhi. This was not always the case, because for a long time the fuel prices between Bhutan and India were either similar or even in some cases higher in the case of diesel. So for example, on 2 years ago, on 16 March 2022, the cost of petrol in Bhutan was Nultram 95.21 chetams per litre, the price of petrol. And in Delhi at the same time, it was rupees 95.41 paise per litre for petrol. And then again diesel on 16 March 2022 in Bhutan was Nultram 100.5 chetam per litre, and in India, Delhi, it was cheaper at rupees 86.67 paise. So it was only from 1st April 2023 onwards that Indian oil companies, PSU companies, drastically dropped their fuel export prices to Bhutan, which is why the price of oil has been cheaper since then in Bhutan than in India. This happened again, as I mentioned earlier, in part due to a series of around 13 investigative stories and follow-ups and 2 editorials on the issue, apart from many questions to the government and other agencies by the Bhutanese from April 2022 onwards to March 2023. The Bhutanese found that the reason for the higher fuel prices or the high price of fuel in Bhutan at the time was twofold. The first is that for decades, Indian oil companies were selling oil to Bhutan at a higher price than Nepal, neighboring Nepal. And secondly, we were being charged bulk or export pricing. So it all started in the middle of the lockdown in November 2021, when I noticed that there was some strange things going on with the fuel price between Bhutan and India. And then I collected some data and links to various articles, and I sent it as a question to the then Minister for Economic Affairs, Lumpo Loknath Sharma, via WhatsApp. And I sent the fuel breakup also, and I asked the question that shouldn't Bhutan be getting fuel at a cheaper rate, because as I will explain later, that we should not be paying certain taxes that are imposed on Indian consumers. The minister, the former minister Lumpo Loknath Sharma, he in turn asked his Department of Trade to look into the issue, and the Department of Trade spent 3 months calling up and exchanging letters with the Indian public sector undertakings, which are PSU oil companies, and these are Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited (BPCL), Indian Oil Corporation Limited (IOCL), and Hindustan Petrol Corporation Limited (HPCL), who are the 3 principal companies who supply fuel to Bhutan. And these companies assured the Department of Trade that there's no overcharging and everything is hunky-dory. But strangely enough, they declined to give the breakup of the fuel costs charged to Bhutan. And the Trade Department, which was used to unquestionably, I mean, over decades, the Trade Department over decades was used to unquestioningly accepting the invoices sent by these Indian oil companies for and not pursuing the matter further in terms of trying to find out more the breakup and all. So basically, they couldn't get much more information than that was given to them by the oil companies. Even the MOEA minister could not get the detailed breakup. He was at one point given a breakup of sorts, that also after much request, but he didn't have the detailed breakup that we wanted to find out why is our fuel being priced and charged so high. As a result, the Bhutanese, we launched our own investigation into the issue and published our first article on 2nd April 2022. In the first article, we pointed out that more than half the price of fuel in India is due to Indian central and Indian state government taxes, which is not applicable to Bhutan as a sovereign country. So we argued that Bhutan should be getting the fuel cheaper by around 30 to 35 per litre. And the basis of our argument was that, again going back to the fuel price on 16 March 2022, we said that in Delhi, the price of petrol on 16 March 2022 was rupees 95.41 paise per litre, and in Bhutan it was 95.21 chetams per litre, when Bhutan's price should be much cheaper and it should be around 60 plus. So we arrived at this calculation because we found that on 16 March 2022, the base price at which the IOCL sold petrol to petrol pumps in Delhi was basically base price is the breakup of the prices, is that the actual price was rupees 48.24 paise per litre, which includes the refining, the cost of the raw oil imported, its refining process and its transportation to the pumps in Delhi. And then that was the actual price of the fuel. And then there was the central government tax of rupees 27.90 paise per litre, and then an additional Delhi state government tax of rupees 15.50 per litre, and a dealer commission of rupees 3.77 paise per litre, and this brought the final price of petrol in Delhi to rupees 95.41 paise, as mentioned earlier. So Bhutan, as I argued, as a sovereign country earlier, should not be paying the central and state government taxes. And in fact, we should be getting the fuel at a much cheaper price, because the base price of fuel in Delhi before these taxes was rupees 48.24. So we argued that, or rather formulated that, if you take the base price in Delhi at rupees 48.24 paise per litre, you add a transportation charge because the refineries are present mainly in Siliguri and surrounding areas. So a transportation charge from Siliguri to Phinsuling and from Phinsuling to Thimphu of 4.84 per litre, which is the standard charge for transportation. Then you add on top of that a 16% in our own taxes and other charges. So like for example, the breakup of the 16% is 5% sales tax when the fuel enters Bhutan, 5% green tax, which is 10%, and an additional 6% levied by our department on the dealer in terms of to account for the operational expenses and other charges, which are and also some of it goes to the dealer in terms of dealer commission and all of that. So it should come to a total at that time not of 95.21 chetams in 16 March 2022, but our calculation showed that actual price of fuel should be around 62 per litre. Then we followed up with our second article in the next issue on 9th April 2022, when we pointed out that Nepal is getting fuel cheaper than Bhutan from the same suppliers for approximately the same distance or even a shorter distance, and the fuel that they're getting cheaper is diesel, which is Nultram 13 per liter cheaper in Nepal than in Bhutan, and then petrol, which is Nultram 12 per liter cheaper. And this is taking into account the currency difference and all of that. And this had been going on for, especially the Nepal one, Nepal-Bhutan price difference, even though it was the same oil companies, the same distance. In fact, in Bhutan's case, the distance should be shorter because we are right next to Assam and Siliguri, from where all these oil refineries are located. So it has been going on for decades, and no one was aware about the issue. The difference in fuel price with Nepal alone meant that every year Bhutan was paying more than 1 billion because of this fuel price difference. So the cost implication was that. Then the Bhutanese found out this information by contacting the Nepal Oil Corporation. We found out the price difference by contacting the NOC spokesperson, and we found that Nepal is getting a lesser price because they have a legal agreement or an agreement of sorts with India's Petroleum Ministry, and they also have a pricing committee in Nepal that examines the prices, import prices from India. Then, surprisingly, Nepal and India both declined to share a copy of the agreement with the royal government of Bhutan when it was requested. But fortunately, the information that I could get on the price difference initially was very useful. Later on, the NOC completely shut up and refused to take any more calls from us. But they had already given us crucial information which Bhutan and our officials could use. Apart from the Nepal price difference, the other reason why the price was so high for fuel in Bhutan was that Bhutan was being charged a price on fuel called bulk charging, or an export price. Bulk pricing is the average price of fuel, international average price of fuel in the last 14 days, along with some other additional charges which push up the fuel prices even more. So this bulk pricing may have started from March 2016, but it is not certain when it exactly started. So based on the findings of the Bhutanese newspaper, the former government, which is then the DNT government, started taking up the issue with India at the bilateral level. And special effort was made in this by the former MOEA minister, Limpo Loknath Sharma. He raised it based on the findings of the Bhutanese. He raised it in his meetings in Delhi, Kolkata and Bengaluru. And again, special mention must be made of the Indian Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister, Hardeep Singh Puri, who I assumed was particularly cooperative on this. And of course, Limpo Loknath raised it with the other Indian ministers also. And by the way, Hardeep Singh Puri is a former diplomat in the MEA and currently a minister with the government in India. And the Foreign Ministry also raised it with its counterparts in the MEA, and the former MOEA also formulated an MOU on selling fuel on the similar lines of what Nepal had with India, though we didn't know the details because it wasn't shared with us. And this MOU formulated by the MOEA gained in principle acceptance by India's Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, headed by again Hardeep Singh Puri, in March 2023. A senior Indian official, on the condition of anonymity and in response to questions by the Bhutanese, told us that as of 1st April 2023, the IOCL is supplying petroleum products to Bhutan at the same price point as Nepal. This is being done since this is better price for the consumer. The Indian official further added that the recent drop in retail prices in Bhutan, and this is back in 2023, can be attributed to the lower invoice price from India. So it was made very clear that it was because the price was brought down to the Nepal level. But then I noticed that the price went even below what our price difference was with Nepal. And here, the senior Indian official indicated that apart from the Nepal price drop, there was also a general drop given to Bhutan after India's Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas started discussing the MOU proposed by Bhutan on fuel prices and the breakdown fuel prices, the breakdown of prices and the supply points. He said this is where the other bulk charges must have been done away with too. The senior Indian official acknowledged that apart from the government at the time following up, the stories by the Bhutanese had an impact on throwing light on an issue which senior Indian officials themselves were not aware about. They acted when the issue came to their attention. And I would give merit to this clarification because this was back in 23. I would give merit because the Indian oil companies are PSUs, similar to like let's say our SOEs here. And they also operate autonomously from the government, and they have their own profit motive, their own commercial and trade secrets. So they must have imposed this at some point on Bhutan. And the Nepal price difference was of course for decades, but the bulk pricing seems more recent, and that's why there were higher prices. And when the Indian political establishment was informed of this and was told that it's an issue for Bhutan, they I think acted quickly, and I'm sure they informally informed the PSUs to bring down the prices substantially. The impact is quite significant financially, as I mentioned at the beginning, but let me give you a breakdown of why the impact of the price breakdown is significant for Bhutan. The 1st April 2023 onwards, price slashes or the reduction of prices for petrol and diesel for Bhutan when compared to the price of fuel in Delhi. So I'm comparing Thimphu and Delhi. So for petrol, the price was reduced by 31.71% for petrol and 28.31% for diesel. So in 2022, Bhutan imported Nultram 11 billion and around 390 million worth of petrol and diesel. Going by the 2022 import figures and the discount mentioned above, Bhutan stands to save Nultram 3 billion and 314 million a year. So that's a huge saving. So if you calculate it at your individual level, if your monthly fuel bill is say Nultram 2,500 or Nultram 30,000 annually, then you will save Nultram 9,513 for petrol vehicles and Nultram 8,493 for diesel vehicles in a year with a discount. Now, even if you take into account, and this is again the calculation done by the Bhutanese at the time, there was some drop in international fuel prices also. So the drop in international prices around the time comes to around 10 Nultram per liter. So even if you account the discount, if you discount this drop in international fuel prices, the cut for petrol still comes to around 20%, and for diesel around 17.16% due to the Nepal price and the removal of bulk pricing. So again, even if you discount the international fuel price, which they're comparing it to the 2022 import fuel data, the savings is still around 2 billion a year. So fuel is Bhutan's largest import and the biggest drain on our foreign reserves, and this will positively affect the balanced trade in our foreign reserves. And even the price of kerosene was cut was cut by 9.38 chetams per liter. And it is also interesting to note that the Indian oil companies reduced the oil price on 1st April 2023, just before His Majesty the King paid a state visit to India from 3rd to 5th April 2023. So the Bhutanese also won the Best Investigative Story Award in the 7th Annual Journalism Awards in 2023 for its stories on the fuel prices. So here, I think the RJOB at the time must be commended for taking it up. The GUI also must be thanked for acting on the information. And then I think the lesson for our system is to be more alert and be more aware of these issues. And thank you very much.